Alright, this thing's running great. Waiting for it to warm up. Try to cycle it, make sure there's no air left in that thing anywhere, you know. So sitting here going over some of my comments on my channel. Apparently that Snap-on video touched a lot of nerves. Some of you guys are laughing, having a good time with it, have a good sense of humor. Some of you guys are mad at me. Some of you guys are just baffled, it seems like. But it almost seems more like it goes by how much you love Snap-on, whether you're mad at me or not. It's pretty funny. Like, you got fanboys that are just unreasonable, they're over the top. A lot of their comments are coming to me from YouTube and telling me it's offensive content, and do I want to approve it? So I've been approving them all, but there's only one or two that they let go up. There's like 4 or 5 nasty comments that I approved just because I think it's funny, and YouTube won't let them go up even though I approved them. You know what? All I'm doing, guys, is saying what I think. It's okay if we disagree. We don't have to agree on everything, right? You can have a different opinion. You got to be sure enough in your own opinion to allow people to see things a little differently. But, you know, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I used to be that fanboy, but over the years I've learned that that's not always the case, especially for tools you don't use 3, 4, 5 times every day. Tools that sit in your box sometimes for months at a time without being used. So I'm just trying to save people some money, and I guess I go a little overboard with the sarcasm and the dry humor, and some people just don't get it. So we're having some fun now, man. Stick with me, stick with me. This Chrysler's almost done. Once this thing gets warmed up a little bit more and we make sure there's no air in it and the fan cycles, that's when we'll know we'll get to drive. When the fan cycles and I got hot air off it, then I know the air is out of it and it won't overheat on a road test. Alright guys, they brought me this sweet F-150 extended cab long bed 4x2. We're doing alignment on. Customer put in his own tie rod ends, his own steering box, his own drag link. We're going to try to align it for him, but it looks like it's going to need camber bushings because it's turning out to be pretty red. I'll show you guys what it looks like. It's a little bit red on the camber, and it's got too much caster variation to the right. So let's see how much they want to spend for that. This takes the eccentric bushings for the upper and lower ball joints, or kingpins, whatever you want to call them. They're ball joints, but since it has I-beam suspension, it uses an offset bushing for the for adjustment. And I'm not sure if this one is rusty or not. It doesn't look like it's too rusty, so we should be able to do it. Let's go up front and see how much he wants to spend on his alignment. It's got mismatched tires too. That's probably not the best. Got Goodyear Wrangler radials in the front, and he's got Transforce Firestone light truck tires in the back, and they're about worn out. So let's see what they want to do up front. It's got 2.9 degrees of camber. That's no good. Lucky for this F-150 customer, he had eccentric bushings in the top already that are adjustable. They're not the perfect spec, so I can't get the camber perfect, but I got it better. So now I'm going to set the toe, then I'll resweep the caster and see how it looks. But it's got pretty nice new parts in it, so it shouldn't be too bad. Let's see if we can use the old Knipex. Alright. That was about 4 turns on that tie rod sleeve. Alright, I got this old Ford pretty good as it's going to get with his existing bushings. He doesn't want to spend any more money, and he said it was highway robbery that we would charge him more than the initial hour we quoted. He said, you quoted me one price, now you're going to charge me another. So he just assumed that everything in the front end to get it aligned would be included, I guess. But anyway, that's typical. When they don't explain it up front, and they, you know, honestly, if I walked out in the parking lot and saw this truck, I'd be like, it starts in an hour, but it'll probably go up. But that's not what they do up there. They don't want to lose the alignment job. So they just had me work for less money, and everybody's happy. There's a little bit of play in the wheel, so I'm hoping the steering wheel is straight. We'll see. I'll take it for a quick drive and check it out. Thursday morning, guys. The HHR's back. They told me up front, the customer thinks something I did came loose. They didn't tell me why he thinks it came loose, or if he's hearing a noise or a rattle or what's going on. But I can tell my work is good. So now do I play a game and go up front and go, no, all my stuff's tight, and pull it around? Or do I go, why does it think something I did came loose? So this is something we deal with. I mentioned in my communication video. Instead of finding out why the customer thinks I messed up and asking ahead of time, I have to pull it in, look at what I did, and then go back and then ask him to find out why he thinks that. So maybe we need some re-education camps. I mean training. Went up to the front desk and asked for some more information on this HHR, what he hears, and he hears a severe rattle. It's scary to drive the car. So I got it running, trying to listen for some kind of exhaust rattle, but I don't hear anything. It does have a small leak from a crack in the exhaust manifold. We told him about that. It's just a little fluttering noise. It's not a rattle. I'm assuming that we still have bad information, even though I've got more information. I don't think it's correct. Maybe when we drive it and hit bumps. Man, that shift lock is loud. It's pretty bad. Let's take this thing around the building, see if we hear something driving on the gravel road in the back. It comes in pretty handy for suspension noises. I want to say I remember hearing strut mounts or sway bar links or something rattle on this car. But why they would describe that as scary to drive, I don't know. But you know how it is when people spend money, then they tend to have very high expectations and exaggerate things, and a lot of squeaking. You guys hear that? Service tire monitor warning. I hear left rear suspension like a dry shock. You know, the O-rings get a little dry and they'll just give you that little screech when they compress and release. Alright, if you want to set your mechanic off in a bad mood to begin with, tell him that he messed up and his work came apart because of some obscure noise you have. That'll usually do the trick, if that's your goal. This thing isn't doing anything really unusual as far as I can tell. So I'm basically going to be done with this one, and I'm going to let him know I hear a noise in the back, a squeaking noise, and I'll see how much time and money he wants to spend. I've double checked my work. It's perfect, and I've already wasted 10 or 15 minutes of my life trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm moving on to my next. I got to road test my Chrysler 300 from yesterday, and there's a couple more tickets in my box. So we're gonna try to make some money today and salvage the day. I was wondering why all these obstructions were in the road trying to keep me from getting to work today. I probably should have stayed home. To a 2015 Hyundai Santa Fe Sport. It's left the customer feeling like it's a little warm on one side as far as air conditioning goes. The vehicle's got 88,199 miles. It's about half its life expectancy, so we're in no trouble yet. It has automatic air conditioning that isn't being utilized. Let's see what happens when we push that. We're going to go up to 70 on both sides, see what it feels like. It's definitely colder on the passenger side. So now the trick is, we have to find out if the electrical gremlins have gotten to it and there's something going on electricity-wise, or does it have some kind of a small refrigerant leak and maybe it's a little bit low. A lot of these cars will be cold on one side, not on the other, based on how the evaporator's set up in the HVAC box. And when it gets low on Freon, only one side gets cold air off the evaporator, because one will pull off the top, one will pull off the bottom. That's our next trick. I got my scanner, my trusty Snap-on Modus Edge hooked up. I'm going to go in the HVAC module. Since it's automatic, it has its own computer. I'm going to go in that module. I'm going to try to talk to it, and we're going to see if we get along and what it has to say about codes and things like that. If none of that's the case, I'm going to go grab that there AC machine over in the back room, and we'll wheel it over and see what the Freon looks like. Uh-oh. No codes present. Pretty quickly I can see the evaporator temperature sensor saying the evaporator is at 68 degrees. So this thing's low on Freon, and the evaporator is not capable of cooling off both sides. So it feels like it's pretty accurate. So Let's go back there and grab the machine. Oh yeah, we got low freon. That's no good. I'm going to turn the engine off, suck the freon out of it, and see what the capacity is and fill her up, see how she works. Got this Hyundai evacuated recharge, put a little dye in it, see if we can find a leak, but right now I'm not seeing anything, not even a wet spot, or usually you can see where the oil is coming out, whether there's dye in it or not, if it's got a little bit of a leak, but apparently it didn't have much freon in it, only a few ounces. It holds about 1.5 pounds. And my hand thermometer is super happy. It's ice cold, so the only thing this Hyundai had, or Hyundai some people say, the only thing it had going wrong with it was low freon. It passed the leak test on the machine. I'm gonna call this one fixed. All right, we got a sweet Cadillac we gotta take a look at. We got a list of stuff they want checked. This here is a 2011 Cadillac SRX, one of the finest automobiles ever produced by General Motors, featuring a 182,000 mile package. Customer says, my check engine light came on, I hear a noise in the front end, and it feels like it sways when I let off the gas. So the generous folks up front charge them an hour to check all those things and figure it out. I have a way of making things work, even if it doesn't feel that fair when it comes to getting paid. So let's see what we got here for lights. Wait on the lights, they're all going to go through their self-check, and the check engine light's not on. We saw that coming. Oh, the tire light is on though. That's interesting. Man. All right, let me get out my tire pressure gauge. I'm going to air up the tires, and then I think there is a noise in the front end they said to take a look at as well, so we'll go ahead and check that out too while we're airing up the tires. Then I'll put my scanner on it and see if it has any codes. They said to check in. All the tires are 3 or 4 pounds low, so I aired them up, and voila, it's like magic and stuff. Tire lights out. Now oddly enough, the odometer says 182,543 miles, and the oil change sticker says the oil change was due about 3,000 miles ago, give or take a few hundred miles. So it's overdue for an oil change. It does have some ECM codes, and since it's overdue for an oil change, I wouldn't be surprised if they're cam timing related codes. We got our codes. We got intake cam position system performance, exhaust cam position system performance, crank position, exhaust cam position not plausible, engine misfire. And there's a radio code or two, some seat codes, things like that for good nature. So I'm going to record these codes, I'm going to clear them out, I'm going to look at the oil, and I won't be surprised if the oil's low. So it does say the oil change isn't due until last month, so that's good. You got that going for them. Let me clear these codes and stop horsing around and have a peek under the hood at the oil and stuff. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like it's got a new axle, or fairly new. Someone has messed with the radial bushings on the lower control arms. Alright. I pried on some things already and I don't see any issues. It's definitely got some kind of a noise though. Just moving it back and forth on the rack. Kind of strange. It almost even looks like, speaking of racks, like the rack and pinion might not be original. It's hard to tell, but it just looks a little fresh looking at it. But the axle, the spacing on the axle is kind of weird compared to this side. The axle's sunk all the way in, and this side the axle has a 1/4 inch gap. Just that could be just the heat shields different on the replacement axle. I might want to I'm going to jack this up and see if the wheels and the wheel bearings are all tight. That's the kind of noise it is. Kind of strange. Got an oil leak. I still haven't checked the oil level. I'm going to do that last before I go up front to tell them what I found. I want to find this noise because you can definitely hear it rolling back and forth on the rack. Alright. I can definitely hear a noise. It sounds like the right lower ball joint. You listen real close. I'm going to take a closer look at those rack and pinion bolts, and I'm going to take a closer look at those ball joints. I lifted it up, rocked all the wheels, everything's tight. I'm going to look at the oil right now too before I run it anymore with low oil. Let's see here. Put a little light on the subject. I'd like you guys to see what's going on. And I like to see what's going on too. Show me what you got. Let's see. We're seeing this together. Oh no. That's a lack of dinosaur blood right there. Apparently the dinosaurs have been spared and the engines have not. Boo. They were both a little bit loose, about a turn and a half. I'm not sure if that was a noise, but it could be a noise. And it definitely sounds like one of these ball joints is dry. Let me grab a wrench and put a wrench on the nuts just in case. Beep. Actually, no, that's a fake torque. It's already tight. Those were not loose like I had wondered. The Acura is back. I don't know if you remember this car from about 5 or 6 weeks ago. Customer had a throttle position sensor code P2138 on this 2008 Acura TL. And he came in, we did some preliminary checks, spent about an hour and a half trying to get it to act up, and it never acted up. It was in my week in the shop video, if you guys saw it, about a month and a half ago. Probably around episode 35, 34, I would guess. But he said it happened again. Of course, it's not doing it right now, but it does have the code back. I'm going to hook up the scope, and we're going to sweep check the TPMS sensor and see what we find. These are the codes we have, some evap codes. He said he doesn't care about Earth, he's not worried about those. He just wants people to drive it. He's worried about this one. Phone's ringing. So this is what we're going to dive into. I'm going to hook the scope up. And I'm going to look at the data stream to see if it matches. APP, A and B. A and B, it says it twice for some reason. I think one's a percentage, one's a voltage. We'll put it on graph, combine. Now, what we want to do is go into our connector. The middle wires 3 and 4 are channels 1 and 2. So basically what they call it is APS-B, APS-A, which is output sensor voltage 1, output sensor voltage 2. So I'm going to hook up the scope and we'll see what we get. I'm going to get a ground at pin 6, and I'm going to check one channel at a time. We'll see what we find. Basically what we want to see is from a couple tenths of a volt to about 2.2, 2.3 volts on this one circuit. That's what that looks like. You can see it on the graph here, showing the 4 channels with the 4 readings, percentages and voltages, all labeled accordingly. Sensor A percentage is blue, B percentage is purple, and then the orange and yellow are my voltages. One goes from 0.2 to 2.3, and one should go from about a half a volt to 4.5 volts, and that's exactly what they both do. And they kind of go together. You don't see any dropouts or glitches. And I'm looking for that in the scope too. The scope's going to be a lot faster, and it'll catch the shorter duration glitches. And I'll just keep working through the throttle, seeing if it shows me anything. And right now it's not. Everything looks good. Now I'm going to go to the other channel, which is red with a blue tracer. Leave my ground in there. This is pin 4. Back probe that. You hold your lip just right. You see the voltage goes up to about a half a volt. Now when I work the scope, it'll show you my increases to about 4.5 volts. No dropouts or glitches. Now I'm watching it on the scan data and the data PIDs and on the scope and seeing if they agree. And they do agree. So it's not showing anything. So that means it's not doing it right now, so it must be pretty intermittent. It's been a month and a half since the car was here last, so we're gonna keep messing with it though and see if we can get it to do something, because I mean the code's back and I cleared the code last time, so it's definitely doing something. It's just very intermittent. I've tried tugging on wiring harnesses. Normally what you'll do is you just jiggle harnesses a little bit, try to duplicate the concern if it's a harness connection or breaking a wire inside a harness. Then moving the harness and simulating what happens when the engine moves is the best way to try to duplicate it. I took the cover off this too, obviously, so I didn't have to go in the car and press the gas pedal. I could do it out here mechanically. This is a pretty primitive early drive-by-wire system. It uses a throttle cable to work the sensor that's connected to the throttle control motor. So the throttle control is totally fly-by-wire like every modern car nowadays, but they still use the cable. I'm not sure why. Maybe Honda was just not ready to jump in with both feet at this point. But this uses both a throttle cable and an electrical sensor for the throttle body. I'm kind of thinking it's a go-between before they were ready to go all out on it. They had to use up existing inventory, whatever the case may be, but it's a pretty hokey setup, and they have a ton of problems with these sensors. If you go in Identifix and all of those, there's probably about 550 mechanics have left their trial and error situation for this code, and about 98% of them were this sensor. But I don't want to be the shotgun guy just throwing a sensor at it if I don't have to. I want to try to get it to do it. Just not having much luck. Everything's working correctly. Now I can shorten the time up on the screen too. If I wanted to go to half a second or 500 milliseconds. And you can see the graph just bounces up and down the screen. You don't get to see as much time, so you definitely have to keep your eye on it. And you can go super quick if you wanted. "50 microseconds. Gives you a good idea. It's basically instant. And you're not seeing a single glitch or dropout. It just goes up and down the scale like it's supposed to. Very, very odd. I think you can go to like 20 seconds on this. 20 seconds. Now you'll see it looks more like the scope. Things are happening a little slower. And that's what it looks like in the data pid versus the scope. But sadly it's not acting up now. So right now all we're doing is playing with it, wasting time. It's not easy to drive a car with this stuff set up on it like this, so that's probably not a good option. So what I'll have to do is I'll try driving it with just the scan tool data pid up instead of the scope connected, and I'll try to see if I can catch a glitch while I'm driving it and see if it shows up, and then we'll come back if it does. This here Lexus customer states, I went into CVS, got my drugs from my dealer, and then it wouldn't start. They came out and helped me get it started, but now all the lights are on and it won't go over 10 miles an hour. Why it wouldn't start, I don't know yet. I'm gonna have to look at the battery and the charging system, but it's definitely in some kind of limp mode. These are real bad. There's a 10 amp fuse. I forget if it's called the VSA or something like that. And that 10 amp fuse blows when you jump start them sometimes. Then it puts it in limp mode. So I'm gonna look at the battery, look in the fuse box, and we're gonna see what we can find. Looks like that battery's at 11.8. That's not good. It's discharged battery. Now I gotta find out why, and I gotta check that 10 amp fuse still and see what's going on with that. Let's make sure it's charging. There's something going on there. It's doing its best. The battery's pretty discharged though, but these I wanna say it's this, I think it's ETCS or something like that from memory. This guy here is upset about something and not coming to the party. That is the first 10 amp fuse after the 215s ETCS. Get us a 10 amp. Oh, that's a specialty fuse. I think I got one of these in my, yeah, that's the little guy. Okay, so this fuse is just not going to get it done. So we need to come up with this fuse, because this fuse is way better than that fuse. And plus you already have a lot of fuses, so now we can make you buy more. So that works out pretty cool. We're going to pop this in here. We're going to grab the scanner and clear the codes. Now, one thing I noticed, I didn't put the headlights on. So the battery's only 1 year old. So I know why the battery went dead. They left the headlights on and went in the store. You see this here? It's kind of like the automatic air conditioning. Oh, they do have the automatic air conditioning on, but they didn't have the automatic lights on. That's strange. I'm gonna turn them off while the battery charges. All right, that took a little dancing, and I didn't want to make you guys watch all the screeching and hollering. Once the car calmed down, I got to, I put it in. I couldn't get it to go in because it was a Canadian vehicle. I didn't even think of that. So then I finally just put it in as a Tacoma. So it cares more about whether it's from Canada or the US than it does about whether it's actually a Lexus or Toyota, a Tacoma, or an RX 330. It's interesting. Apparently that code that was blown is this code P2118. When they jump started it, this code is what sets when that fuse blows. So it also has an oil maintenance required light on there, but it looks like we changed the oil and it's not due for another 1,500 miles. So I'll have to reset that. Clear these codes out. Clear DTCs, yes. There go all my lights. Boom, that was quick. Normal. I got this Tacoma all fixed up. That was quick and easy. I am going to reset the oil light, and I'm going to make sure that battery's fully charged and put her headlights on automatic. This is going to be fixed. That was quick and easy. If you guys ever get one of these Lexuses, you get these Lexuses and people jump start them and then the car won't go anymore, then that fuse is almost always blown. I've probably done 30 of them. Oh man, Lincoln MKS. It's a gloomy Friday morning over here. We got a Lincoln MKS. Customer states overheating and warning messages on the dash that say over temp and low oil pressure. Welcome to the channel, guys. If you're new here, we're making it work, and I'm Jimmy. We're gonna take a look at this 2015 Lincoln with 124,500 miles on the clock. And we're gonna see why it's getting scary messages on the dash and overheating. Low oil pressure is the biggest concern. Of course, that could be because it got hot, but you wouldn't think it would get that bad. Check engine lights on, airbag lights on. 124,000 miles is about twice the life expectancy of this vehicle. And by life expectancy, I mean when the problems start. 80,000 miles. Let's grab the scanner, check the fluids, see what's going on with this thing, and we'll know what direction to go from there. All right, the oil level on this Lincoln's good. The coolant level was empty, so I added some coolant to it. Probably got to add some more. Then I'm gonna get my pressure tester on it. Got to find an appropriate cap. I labeled them all so I don't have to spend too much time hunting. It kind of shortens the finding the right one. Got the magical splash shield out of the way, and oh, that's not good. That's not what you want to see. Coolant coming down the left front of the block usually means the water pump weep hole is showing you that there is coolant coming out where it shouldn't be inside the engine, and I didn't see any coolant on the dipstick though, but this usually means the water pump's bad. And it's timing chain driven like the Chrysler I just did, except on this Ford it's an even bigger job. And it's not even leaking now. I got it at 15 pounds of pressure, it's not leaking. That's also an indication of a water pump, because they leak intermittently. Sometimes they have to be hot, sometimes cold, sometimes while it's cooling or heating it leaks. Where a hose or a radiator would leak all the time, whether it's hot or cold, wouldn't matter. Now that it's sat a while, I ran it and shut it off a couple times. It's definitely leaking. I'm gonna go in here and check the codes, make sure we record all those. I kind of smell like a musty, mildewy odor too, like it has a water leak probably from the sunroof. Doesn't smell very good in here, but we'll focus on the water pump and the codes, and we'll record all those on our notes here. So the camera, you're gonna get some quick set of sway bar links. Nice, easy job. Cadillac from yesterday. We changed the oil got rid of the cam codes. The engine had some misfires this morning when I first started it up and blinked the check engine light and then it went away. It's kind of weird. It actually felt like it was running good when it did it. But they want to know about the front suspension noise. So listen to what I found. I'm hoping it'll come up on the camera. I'll get you guys in there closer, see if you can hear it. Coming from the strut mount or one of the rubber cushions on there. It's got 125,000, so I'm going to recommend Ready Struts, which comes with springs and rubber and the whole strut. Hopefully they're available. If they're not, then we might have to order the individual parts and just reuse the spring. We'll change all the rubber on the strut. Got it running. Had a bad coil and fouled spark plugs. So I got this monstrosity running. It's been kind of slow today. So they finally had me work on it and get it running. And we put an engine in it last year. I don't know if you've seen that video, but it's in one of my week in the shop videos and a couple of the short videos I made last year. Carburetor seems to be running a bit rich. We might have to work on that. I'm going to take it for a drive. He said he has no brakes. And that's the main reason he was bringing it in when it shut off and stopped running. Brake pedal feels pretty decent. Let's take it for a drive. Gotta pull up the little lever to get it in reverse. I'm only going around the building. I'm not going on the road with this thing. This Bad Johnny is a field car to me. I'm not taking this thing on the freaking public road. No seat belts. No modern safety features. There goes today's second ambulance. Driving right there. No safety features, no modern conveniences whatsoever. It's obviously fast. It's got a manual transmission. Brakes feel good to me. Alright, let's see what he's talking about. The brake. He said it has no brakes, but it's got brakes. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually had a problem getting it started. I was towed in because of that, and somehow they got on no brakes. I don't know. It's hard to tell anymore nowadays. Let's go check up front and see what's really going on with this thing. See if they can call Paul Harvey. Lower that idle down a little bit. That's a little better. Alright guys, we got a 2015 Chevy Trax. It's got 50,000 miles on it. It's got a low tire light on. Little old lady, very nice little old lady. She says I can't get the key out sometimes, and it seems like it's hard to get out of the park sometimes. Of course, I haven't had any problem with it, and it seems to go in and out of park fine, and I get the key out fine. But she is a pretty frail little old lady, very, very sweet. But I'm wondering if she's just not pressing on the brake hard enough sometimes. That's the only thing I can think of. She also wants a safety inspection, check the vehicle over, make sure everything looks good. I'm gonna give this thing a once over and look around, see what's going on. And of course, air up the tires, get that light out for her. I caught my leg on the broken side seat panel, which is a real common thing on some of these vehicles lately. I've seen it on every brand where the plastic brakes. Yeah, that's what's wrong with this one. Plastic brakes in there, and it's flopping around, and you catch your leg on it every time you get in and out. 50,000 miles is about the life expectancy of one of these economy cars from GM. See where these tires are at. 26.5. That's about where I see them when they're not driving them a lot and they're not getting the oil changed here. Because most of the quick lube places, they don't check your tire pressure. It's not like the old days too. You could get gas and they would check your tires for you. Nowadays, you can hardly get someone who changes your oil to check your tires for you. kind of sad. We've gone from a full service industry to a get what you can out of them and send them down the road without taking care of them industry. It really makes me sad. Got nice new front brakes. Sway bar links look good. All the rubber. Everything looks good. Front brakes are nice, about 10 millimeter like they've been done. Can't be original at 50,000 miles and look that good. Maybe. It's a 2015. All the hangers look good. Got the extra support strap in the rubber. They must have had problems with them braking. Drum brakes, must have popped a wheel off in the back. Everything looks good. The tires were all about 5 pounds, 6 pounds low, which is common when people aren't checking the tires pretty regularly or having a vehicle service where they actually follow through and do what they're supposed to. There's no fluid leaks. Everything looks good. Got the Jiffy Lube mark on there, or the Quick Lube, or whoever. Try to get the shifter to act up a couple more times. See what happens with that. I had to add about a quart of coolant to the overflow, so it's probably never been topped up. Oil level's good, about a half a quart low. Not too bad. Change oil warning is on, but the sticker says 52,650, so it's about 2,600 miles away from needing to be done. Usually to reset the light on these, you got to scroll through the menu using a series of button controls. Let's see how that works. And push this menu button, get the oil change meter. It was at 0%, and then I just held the set clear button for about 5 seconds, and then it changed to 100%. That should have been done when the oil was changed about 2,600 miles ago, it looks like. So now next time I start it up, I shouldn't get that reminder again. And you can go through the menu and see what the oil change goes to 100%. Pep Boys changed their oil and didn't put air in their tires, didn't top off the coolant, and didn't reset the oil change reminder. Let's see, check the shifter operation. Drive, park. I can hear it clicking. So it's working. See if I can get the key out. Drive, park. Yeah. So I'm not seeing what she's talking about with that problem. We may have to go up front and check with Paul Harvey, which it's like 8 out of 10 cars lately. I gotta go. What are they sure what they're asking about? Is that really the complaint? Because it seems like it's hard to tell whether it's actually what's wrong with the car or not, or what the symptom is. Guys, this fancy Cadillac SRX is about to get some new knees, so that'll be nice. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these out here. We're doing stabilizer links, struts. I believe we're doing a battery, and of course a wheel alignment when you have the front end apart. Parts are on the way, so I'm going to take the risk of pulling it apart. Wish me luck. Let's do it. It's a shooter. Get off of there. Come on now. I know you made a happy nest, but you gotta go. You gotta go with me. Come on. Don't be like that. It's Friday, man. Come on. Be like that. Guess I ought to do this one too. That's gonna be a little more of a challenge. Oh yeah, huh? Uh-oh. I think I might have to not be able to get that in. I got to undo the other side first. Yeah, I always loosen the nut first, because if you just try to turn this without loosening the nut, then most likely you'll strip this out before it ever turns. So it's always better to loosen the nut first, then you can turn this in much easier. Come on now. My goodness, man. Did not want to vacate the premises. Now I'll be able to lift up so I can get to the lower. Now that both sides are loose, I can move it to work on it. That's especially new contraption. Cover your ears. Oh, now that I mention it, it's a good idea. Cover my ears too. Why does it always turn off one click lower while it's stored? Ha! How do you like that? You don't want to come out with a hammer. Now what? Now what do you got to say for yourself? You lose. Yeah. It's got a nut holding the spring together and a nut holding it into the car. So at first it looks like when you take this nut off, it's going to all come apart and the spring's going to explode and all that cool stuff. But in reality, there's a second nut. No worries. I'm just going to use the wall mounted strut machine for these. Springs are pretty good size. They don't have my new struts here yet, so I'm not going to release the tension on the spring nut. But I'll just set it up and get it all ready. Kind of a hokey upper strut mount deal. I wonder if that was some of the noise they had. I'm going to put some of that Teflon lubricant that we put on urethane bushings and stuff. I believe they're getting the new ones. Look at that thing. You just bump it, it wants to turn. That's no good. When the new strut gets here, I'll pop that apart. Alright, this Lincoln, they approved the timing chain and the water pump job. Matter of fact, they didn't tell me if we're doing a chain or not. I know we're doing the water pump. 125,000 miles. We're probably going to look at the chain and see how it looks before we decide. I doubt very much it's on the ticket yet. Try to do them as cheap as possible, and then we worry about what happens later. Alright guys, week 42 is in the books. It's been a pleasure having you here. Hope you enjoyed this week's video. Starting Monday, week 43, a week in the shop. Thanks for spending some time here. Make sure you torque that like button on the bottom of your screen. Doesn't cost you anything. Subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of content. You guys are awesome. I'll see you in the next video.